Hey everybody. Yeah, today is the first huzzah. The first ever episode of the Periscope tandem with YouTube kind of series called the Aspie Perspective. Now I do want to say one thing. So if you noticed in social media on the platforms where I have an account called the Aspie Perspective, there is a cross, a Christian cross, in the logo above the words the Aspie Perspective. I added that a few years ago because I myself am a Christian. And I think people view saying that as like saying, oh, well, I'm humble, and then it makes you not humble anymore. You know, let's just say I'm a Christian, so I'm a Christian, so let's just settle that right now. My Christian peeps, brothers and sisters, will know what I'm saying. And yeah, I just need to get that out there. So I'm not, with this out there too, I am not a person who would willingly force my religion onto you. Like, I just need to lay that out there because people think that, have sometimes a preconceived notion about what Christians are like, you know? And I think that's not fair. It's not fair. I've grown up with, I don't want to turn this really into like spiritual thing, but I don't hate homosexuals. I hate the sin that they do. There is a difference. There is so much a difference. Homosexuals, gay people and people in the whole LGBTQ plus movement, worldwide community many believe at least, that Christians are homophobic, or homophobes and stuff, and I'm like, I'm so sick of that title. I'm so sick of that label. That's not even really biblically accurate. I think oh my gosh, my student, I think my, yeah, this is not accurate. I get it that people in the LGBTQ community, for lack of a better word, see the sin as their way of life, like loving people of the same gender, or thinking they have the wrong body or something that they were born with, which, I mean, that's fundamentally not believing in the body that God gave you. Anyways, I don't want to judge. I don't want to turn this into that kind of thing. I want to keep this purely about my perspective with autism, and I might even branch this out with the whole Periscope new function setting to do like a group call with another Periscope user. I might actually in the future use that for future Periscope live streams, like scopes. And I don't know how it's gonna work when I like take that kind of footage and move it and upload it to YouTube. I don't know how that's gonna work out. I really don't. I'm gonna just roll with it. If people comment on YouTube videos or comment to me in these videos and on Periscope, because I'm uploading it to both, just pretty much YouTube comments, but also live too if you would rather see, would rather see like more Instagram live streams or, Facebook live streams, depending on what you're comfortable with, then just let me know, because I will do a few of those as well. They will not be the full-fledged, like, the Aspie Perspective series, just because I cannot do that individually on every single platform that I use. Maybe besides Twitter. But that's like 4 things right there. That's like Instagram Live, Facebook Live, Periscope, and YouTube. Okay, I can't do it individually. A full-fledged, devoted live stream on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube all of the time for a legit, probably hour and a half long topic. That would, I have a life on top of this series thing, so, yeah, that's not gonna fly. That's not gonna work. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. So, yeah. So I just need to get that out there, get the whole Christianity thing as my religion out there, because I'm not gonna just hide it, because that's ridiculous, because that would be like hiding the fact that I'm autistic, which I do not try to hide, and people just think that I add Asperger's to my bios on social media just to get attention, or just to use it as an excuse or something in arguments. Like, okay, I'm not that great at arguments in social media, because I'm not actually that witty. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. So, yeah, I just wanted to get all of it out there. Another ground kind of Aspie rule thing that it's just a thing of life about Asperger's and autism, really, now that it's clumped into one diagnosis thing ever since 2013, is that it's not like depression. I had a talk with my mom last night, a night or two ago, about it, and she pretty much, I don't know, she thought that it was kind of like a little bit like depression, where I could just get better with help. And she used the term expectation in the conversation, and I'm not saying that I can't try a teeny bit harder at stuff. I have to admit that I haven't been at my best emotionally, and when I'm not at my best emotionally, it's like I'm not really that, like, I don't know. I have PDD, persistent depressive disorder, so it's like I'm not trying to just. My mom, I don't know, she thinks that I don't. It's really hard to explain, but long story short, she's pretty much in denial. I think that I'm autistic. There's like no other real logical explanation. It's either that she doesn't like it, or doesn't care to like understand it, or she's like in denial, or something like that. Anywho, on to the actual topic, which is my Aspie perspective, how I struggle with autism, and autism and Christianity. I had to add had to maneuver autism and Christianity into the title of this because I don't believe that I could talk about one without not talking about the other. Or I can't have one without the other, because it's true, for me. And this is just me. I mean, please, if you stumbled upon this, and you know so very little about autism, let's just say that you think that every autistic person is Christian or something, that's not true. There's some autistic people who believe that they're gay because of the whole not being able to really explain their feelings and what the heck? Not explain their feelings very well, and therefore come to the conclusion that they must be gay or transgender or something. I can completely understand how that could happen. I'm not judging, I'm just saying I can understand how that could happen. And how it does happen, unfortunately. Just my personal opinion. Personal Christian belief opinion, yeah. So, I'm going to share with you, for this topic, for this episode, my testimony with autism and how it connects with Christianity. Because it does kind of interconnect. It kind of dovetails together. I'm not saying autism is synonymous with Christianity or vice versa, but the thing is, it's per person. Much like why I call this series the Aspie Perspective, not just because it's the title of my YouTube account, one of my YouTube accounts, or anything. It just seemed like the most appropriate name because, I mean, I'm about to share my own personal Aspie perspective. Like, it's just kind of a play on words and punny. But yeah, it's legit though. Okay, I was attending Jackson High School in Mill Creek, Washington, and I had this friend named Marco, best friend really, and he, one day during lunch, told me, like, hey, you might have Asperger's syndrome, and I'm like, what in the world is Asperger's syndrome? Like, what in the frickin' world is Asperger's syndrome? So then he told me where he looked it up, which was webmd.com, and honestly, I decided the next opportunity that I could to go to the library, I went to a computer and looked it up, and to be honest, it's like over half the symptoms on the list I completely related to. Not just currently, but like while I was reading through everything, I could actually think of in my mind at least a dozen different times in the past where I actually dealt with said symptoms. I don't remember all the symptoms that were there. If you really want to know, you can just Google it yourself, WebMD, or in Google Asperger's syndrome, WebMD or something. But yeah, because back in the day, in 2012, or actually 2011, because this was about 7 or 8 months before I was tested and positively diagnosed with high-functioning Asperger's syndrome. 1 second. it used to be, like, on WebMD, there would be, like, 2 different pages. There'd be one generally for autism, and there'd be one for Asperger's syndrome, because they used to be the 2 different things. And I kind of... I kind of wish that they would have kept it that way, because it was so much easier, in my opinion, at least. Because autism is not... I mean, it's a spectrum. I would say it's a circular spectrum. There isn't just one type, now that the fact that they're both clumped together. Yeah. Anywho's. So, yeah, there's a set of autism-related pages on WebMD, and a set of, like, Asperger's syndrome-related pages about, literally, Asperger's syndrome, like, as a literal diagnosis. Like, name. And so the symptoms were written differently than they are now on the Asperger's syndrome pages. But there's just so many things. And I decided to, like, keep on reading about it, because I'm like, well, I don't want it to be like this thing that they all seem really coincidentally things that I deal with. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want it to... I'm kind of a hypochondriac, you know, so I don't want it to be like this thing that I'm just, like, coincidentally diagnosing myself with, firstly. But to be honest, it was one of those things where it's just like I knew in my heart of hearts, like deep in my soul, that I was autistic. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, so I just kept on reading about it, and reading about it. I read about autism too, to just see the difference. I'm like, oh man, yeah, I'm definitely autistic, but I definitely have Asperger's syndrome. Like, yeah. 'Cause I'm just, you know, I can talk, I can make conversation even though it's not that good. And just, yeah. So, I ended up having to print out 2 different packets of information straight from WebMD about Asperger's syndrome, like matching on the same information, and I gave one to my mom, and I gave one to my dad. And I did that so that if either one of them lost their packets, the other would be able to, you know, help each other out. Because I was that, like, literally determined. It was almost like woman's intuition that I could actually tell that I was autistic. And I would even tell people before I was diagnosed, clinically, like officially. And just, yeah, because I really didn't, I was just so sure, you know what I'm saying? And I had already, like, positively self-diagnosed myself with, like, depression and OCD and, what was it? I don't know. Maybe just those 2 things before then, at that time. And so, yeah, and so I think it just took my parents 7 months to just kind of, like, just do it. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that still a little bit shocked that it took them that long, like 7 to, like, 8 months, so, like, pretty much the end of 2011, the fall and winter of 2011, and then into the spring of 2012, for me to just get officially diagnosed positively with high-functioning Asperger's syndrome. Hello. I got a viewer on Periscope. Yeah. And oh my gosh, though, in March of 2012, it was probably, I know I was tested when I was 17, because I'm like, I don't want to get tested on my birthday. I really don't. I mean, I don't know why I didn't want to get tested or have the results. Well, I know I didn't want to get tested on my birthday because that would just be like getting up super early, going to this place where I was going to get the testing done, and then being really tired during it. Like, I remember falling asleep a lot when I was getting tested for autism, for high functioning Asperger's syndrome, excuse me. But yeah, man. For reals. Yeah. Sorry. Zoning out a teeny bit. And yeah, I didn't want to get tested on my birthday, which is I'm not gonna say it, but it's in early March. But then, so I must have had it, been officially diagnosed, probably, oh, maybe March 12th or 11th in 2012, because I know it happened soon after my birthday. So yeah. Honestly, when I was diagnosed, it was like a freaking godsend. Like, just a freaking godsend. It wasn't really that big of a surprise because I was already living like I was diagnosed with it. Because I could just tell with my, I don't know, woman's intuition, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. It's just absolutely totally nuts. Yeah, sorry. Zoned out again a little bit. Yeah, I don't really know how my parents took it, to be very honest with you. Really honest. But I just know that I had personally, like, have so many memories of having symptoms happen. Traits happen. I want to get in the habit of saying traits instead of symptoms because it destigmatizes it as some sort of thing that I need to, like, treat like depression, when it's not like depression at all. It's deeper than depression. Anyways, I don't know, during the self-diagnosing process, and even post-diagnosis, I would just remember a bunch of different times in my childhood where I was exhibiting a bunch of these symptoms, but I just didn't know what it was. And that's so maddening, because the things I was dealing with were things that, like, how I just act, how I am, how I interact with people, how I behave. So the whole, I don't know, my mom believing that I can get better. Like, I don't know how much better she thinks that I can get. Cause, let's be honest, autism is I firmly believe a lifestyle kind of a thing. It's not my apologies. It's not something you can exactly get over. Uh, yeah. So, yeah, I think my mom's in denial. And my dad's just, not really completely understanding it, but he's just doing his best. And, his best has been enough. Because I'm just closer with him because he can kind of roll with it. He can roll with, like, my differences, and he can do his very best, which is really good to understand, like, my weird autism quips, traits. To be honest, I understand why people call it traits, autism traits, because it's like autism is more like a type of personality, kind of, than I don't know, than things like depression or what have you, Depression is something that you can get better at, but also be completely healed of. It's very easily treatable with, like, talk therapy and medication, usually. But, yeah. Usually, yeah. I understand that there are types of bipolar depression and disorder and stuff where, and like chronic depression, I mean, I understand that, but like depression where it's more tough to get over it, and I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that it's, trying to lump regular depression with chronic depression or autism, clumping that with bipolar disorder, but bipolar disorder and things like that, to my recollection, from what I've read about it, it's like just as hard to treat or to kind of struggle with or deal with day to day. I'd assume it's just as tough as autism. I can't, freaking like say for sure, because I'm not bipolar. I don't have bipolar disorder, personally. Sorry about that. One moment. Whoa. Okay. Sorry about that. I really should have a phone near me so I can just shut that off like that. Anywho. Yeah, it's for me, and I think definitely from what I've heard from other Aspies online on Facebook, in Facebook, like, autism support communities and pages and whatnot, it's definitely more so a like neurological / personality kind of thing. Like, it's that deep in our lives, that huge in our lives. When I say in the title Autism and Christianity, the original title was for the scope was this episode was different. It originally said My Aspie Perspective - Christianity in Autism. Now, I wrote that these notes for this episode last month, most of them. So kind of forget what I meant by Christianity in Autism. However, when I did make a different note, where autism connects with Christianity. For me, I felt for a few years that I had to choose between autism and Christianity. Here is why. Because there is this large, I would say, like, let me see if I can just do this here. Yes. I would say, large community of people in the world. Well, not large community in the world. I got the sense from my friends and my mom and just some people that Christianity was this, like, really not bad essential exactly, but this thing that had to be healed. But it doesn't have to be healed. No offense, like, super charismatic Christians or super strict Christians who believe that autism is a problem and that it should be taken just away from just society and just life. For us and for me, just autistic people, it's our operating system. It is our operating system. It's much too and it's different. Like, Android is like one operating system for phones, and Apple, or actually I should say iOS, is like another operating system for a different brand of phone. That is much like autism versus the world, versus neurotypicals, versus, or comparative to, let's say, everyone who does not have a developmental disability. That's like oranges and apples, baby. Heck yes. But for a long time, somehow, I started just feeling terrible that I'm autistic. Like, years and years ago, like 2012 or 2013, I thought that it was something that God wanted to cure me of, because all I could see was the problems that it caused me. And caused other people, too. I would so internalize those moments. I don't know if any other Aspie has these moments where somehow we unintentionally cause conflict and we don't know that we're doing that. So we actually cause occasionally these rifts with people where we're saying one thing and they're saying another thing, and somehow we lose friendships because of it, or we hinder friendships or worsen friendships because of, I don't know, autism. Autistic traits. Lack of picking up, like, social cues, like an antenna, like a antenna on a radio station building or something, channel building. If we think of neurotypical people having social antenna to pick up social cues and be able to handle it all. Yeah, I was not born with that. I was not born with that at all. Neither were billions of other autistic people born into this world. We were not born with that antenna. We were not born with that capability naturally. I'm not saying that I used to be so much worse with autism. When I was a kid, I don't know, kick, bite, scratch, hit other kids or people to really describe what I wanted because I wasn't that verbal when I was a kid. I really, I think in my adulthood I've been the most, maybe, adolescence to my teenhood, has been probably the most verbal I've been my entire life about stuff, about kind of issues in the world, issues in the church, issues, or my own opinions, my opinions about autism and my spiritual life, or I should say, my faith in what I believe as a Christian has all kind of grown. I think that's it kind of partly slides in or meshes in with just getting older and just getting to know oneself more, but I really didn't know myself until March of 2012 when I was diagnosed positively for high-functioning Asperger's syndrome. And, the odd thing also about my diagnosis, when I sat down and the doctor who tested me, or set up the testing, said officially that I have Asperger's syndrome in 2012, pardon me, whoa, my bad. He originally was first saying he didn't know if he should say autism or Asperger's syndrome, because at that time, in 2012, it was the last year for the two different diagnoses, the actual, setup like that, for the types of diagnoses, I guess. And I recently realized why been realizing recently, I should say, why he said that originally 8 years ago. I want to make another episode on that specifically, like the low versus high functioning and why labels matter, but also why they don't. And my views on that. But, I could still do that. Okay, so I realized recently why my original doctor who diagnosed me was kind of on the fence about which way to turn, was because he didn't explain why in the moment, but it's something I've realized over the past couple years. It's because it's something that was actually verbalized on a show on YouTube and technically Periscope called Autism Live. It's a fantastic way to get information on autism for, families with autism. So, if you're a autism sibling, as in a sibling of someone who has autism, and you want to know more, that's going to be the show for you. Or even a relative of someone on the spectrum, that's going to be the show for you, for real. And the reason, so what I heard on Autism Live that made me kind of think twice about that, or just think on that more, is when Shannon Osborne said she didn't believe in the high or low functioning labels, because some people on the spectrum are high functioning in some areas and low functioning in other areas. And oh my gosh, I can completely relate to that. Like, she totally verbalized it for me, like contextualized it, or whatever you want to, whatever the phrase is. um, uh, yeah, yeah, because whereas I can talk and I can make conversation to a degree, and I can understand certain kinds of social cues, and and can obviously function in a job, like if I have like a list of things to do, or if I'm just told specifically what to do, I can do it, but there's like a cap, like a gray area on how much I can do by myself, and I realized the connection between the whole line high and low functioning labels and like the cap off on what I can do by myself, realistically, and that was because just I'm better at certain things than other things. I'm very low functioning at math, because just anything with numbers, and I mean anything, like bus routes and directions, just kind of, that's connected, so kind of like period, just directions and bus routes. Various kinds of math. I will need so much help on my taxes when I get my next job. I'm gonna need help with like any kind of student loans I'll need in the future for college. Like I want to have a relationship later in life, but I might also need like a helper, like an extra, like like a tax aid, or I might need a tax aid, or just some sort of aid to help me with that in the future. Oh my gosh. And a lot of these things are, practice makes perfect, right? Like directions, and especially bus routes. But what my mom doesn't understand is that I can get better at some stuff, but other stuff it's like you got to just take it how it is. And I don't think that she's realized that there's a difference between teaching little kids with autism and having a child with autism, like parenting, two different things. And I'm not saying, like, I'm this tough child to parent. But I can tell growing up, I remember my mom yelling at me a lot, and I just wondered if that's because she didn't understand it. She didn't understand me. I mean, she and I, and parents and I, generally didn't know I had autism for like 18 years. So I think that's kind of part of the reason why she's a little bit hesitant to read or watch more into it. And that's actually really tough, because it's kind of like, okay, so my kid has, let's say, like, my mom's perspective of, say I have cancer. Like, okay, so you're not going to read up on the kind of cancer your kid has. Great. You're not going to watch informational videos so that you can be better prepared, better understand your kid. Like, cool. That's pretty much what my mom's doing with autism. Like, she's not wanting to... She doesn't quite understand where I'm at developmentally. So she doesn't understand, like, there's... I'm not saying that she should set her expectations really low, but don't set them really high either. Like, I can do stuff, but she's thinking of it as more like this temporary thing, more so than a personality difference. A really just a brain difference. Like, she has a brain, my dad has a brain. People think differently, and I think differently than my mom because I'm autistic. Like, it's not. Oh my gosh. And she tried to put it on me like it's my fault that I don't compromise, or that I don't oh that I don't just, yeah, I don't do that. And it's really, like, hard, because it's like, kind of like, I'm Caucasian, so I don't think I can fully understand this, but I would imagine it's like the neurological equivalent of being like, hey, I'm black, and then my mom not even registering that. Like, treating me technically differently. I think she's... Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It is seriously like that, and I'm like, I don't even... during the conversation my mom and I had a day or two ago, it was like, yeah, I can actually see how I need to compromise on certain things and not saying certain things or doing certain things with you, and I can see where we might need to agree to disagree on some stuff, but you do not get to just dictatorship your way with your own opinions and saying to just shut up or to stop talking or talking over me. Like, that's the kind of things that my mom does, and she wasn't even owning that. Yeah, it's one thing for me to actually recognize, like, okay, I have a compromising issue. Like, I don't compromise enough maybe with my mom with stuff, and I don't, just let it go when my mom and I have different opinions on things, different beliefs on things, sometimes. And it's like, I'm a big girl, I'm 24, I'm able to freaking, like, truly, I swear, like, understand that, but my mom actually, like, there's been times where I've shared my opinions on things, and she says that I'm purposefully stating a different opinion to just piss her off. I'm like, where do you get that from? So I can't have a different opinion on something, or a different interest, like opposite interest in something? Like, like, she loves a heck ton of whipped cream on her pumpkin pie. I do not like any on my pumpkin pie. She likes grape and, like, raspberry and marionberry kind of jellies and jams. I like marmalade and strawberry. I like marionberry lemonade from pizza, so I think I would like marionberry too. But on the whole, like, you know what I'm saying? That's, like, how different our things, just interests are. And it's totally not even purposeful. I swear to you, it's not even purposeful. but she just takes it personally. And I'm like, Mom, there's only so much I could actually do that would actually be purposeful to piss you off. Like, for real. Like, what the heck? Sorry, I just kind of had to rant a little bit, because that's really ridiculous that she would actually say out loud. Well, she's obviously having a different, choosing to like the opposite, or say the opposite, you know what I'm saying? Moms and daughters, or moms, especially daughters out there. Yeah. It is not just with neurotypical moms and daughters. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. So, I kind of got on a little bit of a tangent. So, back to where autism connects with my Christianity, or my autism connects with Christianity. I think a lot of my friends early on just wanted, I don't want to be, like, insinuate too much into it, but I think my friends a while back possibly wanted to just wanted me to be different, you know? I used to have this preconceived notion that, like, yeah, I think it's a problem, you know, that autism is a problem. But just what I've learned from other autistic people on YouTube, like Invisible Eye. Oh, dang it, there's this woman, I was listening to a video last night about autism masking and her perspective with it, and saying that it's life, that autism is life for us Aspies. It just kind of reminded me again, like, how much it's a reality for me. But that also made me realize, like, well, my parents and family and friends, but especially my parents and certain other friends, definitely don't, including the world on the whole, who don't know about autism at all, they're not in that world with me. Autistic people would know what I'm talking about. There's an inexplicable different feeling that you have inside, and no one will understand it except other autistic people. Yeah, no one will. I mean, for the time being, at least, it's all that I've realized from my kind of walk with autism. From actually being aware of it, I should say. And the fact that, well, again, that my mom talked about it a night or two ago, that somehow it can get better, like, like she's talking about depression. like, I'm sorry, it is 10 times deeper. It goes way deeper than just freaking, depression. I mean, it's not even like it. I mean, it can be a kind of a symptom, or, yeah, depression is more of a symptom of autism than a trait, because depression is mental illness. But I think I have PDD, persistent depressive disorder, because of the fact that there are so many people who do not recognize in my life just how large autism is. just how big of a part it has in my life. It doesn't outweigh God. It doesn't outweigh Jesus. I think that God could heal me of autism if he wanted to. I have no qualms with that happening. But the thing is, the arena that people see, that people interact with, would be different without autism. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I would be 10 times different of a person if I didn't have autism. And I'm not trying to just, be closed-handed about that. Like how my church talks about giving tithing and stuff. And donations, or not donations, just offerings. I'm not trying to be close-handed about that, but that's just the truth of the fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is, it is what makes me quirky. When I tell my Christian friends who just believe that God is who makes me quirky. Yes, because he allowed me to have autism for a reason. And I think the reason why, part of the possible reason why he allowed me to be autistic and a Christian, is so that I can reach the non-believing parts of the autistic community, worldwide community, just wherever I am, wherever I happen to be, or whatever I happen to be doing, like this episode, and if people have questions, they can contact me. My Instagram handle is _Aspie Perspective. And they can just send me whatever message via that. That they want to. Like, other... Oh, sorry. Like, my page and these are about the female perspective on the Asperger's autism spectrum. But, really anyone could message me, because I just support autism awareness and support and spreading acceptance about it. Just period, as much as I can. And I hope to do that a lot through these videos, both through Periscope and YouTube. There's a function on Periscope where you can save video that you live stream on Periscope. And then you can upload it to, say, Facebook, or maybe Facebook, but definitely YouTube. Yeah. So, now talking about the Christianity side. I think of autism in my life just as big as Christianity. Although Christianity is a bit bigger because it's how I view everything through. Like I look at everything through a Christian lens, pretty much. But I also see things through a permanent Aspie lens, too. That can create some confusion for me about spiritual topics, because I'm a very literal person due to autism. A literal thinker. I think normally in black and white. Very rarely do I think in gray terms. So yeah, it can cause some issues with that. My autism has caused some issues with friends in the church, like just first church, my current church, in general, like social problems. Because I'm very bad, I've realized, at social boundaries. I've learned pretty well how to deal with physical boundaries, especially after my first paying job, which was a busser at Mod Pizza, and sometimes it was so busy in there that I would unintentionally bump into someone. I mean physical awareness. Well, I would literally bump into someone and be like, oh, sorry, didn't see you there. Yeah, man. Bump into people. But anyways, I think of, yeah, okay, look at life through two lenses. First autism and then Christianity through a Christian lens. And I don't have any real qualms about that. I think my friends might, because they just I don't know, some of my friends have been like, you shouldn't identify yourself like with PDD or autism or something. And I'm like, you just don't get it. It's not, it's like for Christian believers, Christians, it's like a way of life to be a Christian. At least that's how I've been living life, and probably living life that way for much longer than I've realized. Which is, I mean, it's a good thing, it's not anything bad. But, whereas maybe other people in my first church weren't doing that to their fullest. That's fine, that's their own decision, that's their own. I'm like not gonna bother with that, because that's other people's choices and beliefs and opinions, and I'm literally good with that. I've already said I'm not going to like judge anyone. Said at the beginning of the episode that I'm not going to judge anyone based on their spiritual belief, but please do not judge me by these episodes and my, group on Facebook, and not talking to people through that lens, not communicating or not even sharing that lens with possibly other Christian Aspies who are in that Facebook group, the Aspie Perspective, because it's a support group. Yeah. And I want these to be an extension of that. I want people to be yeah, anyways. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit off track again. Yes. Yes, another note I made is my worldview is dictated by autism as well as Christianity. It is how I view and see everything in life. There cannot be one without the other. For me. But this is just about me. I thought to have this first episode be kind of like getting to know me on a more personal level, so that, I don't know, my own Aspie perspective, so that, therefore, I have sufficient reasoning to share the Aspie perspective, other aspects about autism with all of you, and, because there are some people who are like, well, how can you be sharing about that when you don't even deal with it, or something like that? There's people with other things who do that, say that about other things as well, and I just am like, what they say that also, I've heard people say that about the whole autism, or autistic people, are are the real experts, and people just say, like, well, you're not a doctor. I'm like, yeah, but do neurotypical doctors who study it actually understand what it's like to live it? No. Respectfully? No. I completely respect every psychologist, every scientist, or just doctor who tests people for autism, and I respect Dr. Hellings, who originally tested me. I thank God for him, for real. I thank God for helping me to follow my own intuition and not being afraid to confront my parents about being tested for autism, because, I was a minor, but I really wanted to look into it. And yet again, my self-diagnosis actually turned out to be an official issue, or official just thing that I've been dealing with my entire life. Yeah. Now I'm gonna shift gears a little bit and talk about, well, I've kind of mentioned it sporadically through other points in this episode, this broadcast, because, I can't really talk about my testimony with autism, which I already did, and how I was diagnosed and everything, without really talking about how I struggle with it, or what I deal with, But my third point, or third note, really, is my adult life with autism, and where I struggle. Also, how I struggle. This is more complex of a topic that I find kind of hard to talk about. Not emotionally, but hard because I don't really have the words. Yeah, there's been some things I've learned this year, and already, well, no, wait, sorry, some things I learned last year, different parts of last year, that were just, put into words in videos on YouTube, and I'm like, hey, I struggle with that, or I deal with that, so, yeah, just 1 second. We're into it. Cool chiz. Sorry about that. Sorry about this. So yeah. When I was first diagnosed, I was a minor. Well, tested, I was a minor, and technically an adult when I was diagnosed, but I was 18. So I was kind of just barely an adult. I personally didn't consider myself a true adult until I turned 21. And that's because I was able to drink alcohol, yes. But that's when I was, like, really legal. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Yeah. How do I struggle with it? Oh my gosh. Well, I'll rehash, parts of my testimony about it, I guess. Which is that, teen angst never really went away for me, with, say, my mom in particular. Yeah, there's been some things that have been happening with friends on and off for the past 8 years that have really made me realize, or made me feel like I'm back in high school, because they're issues that I dealt with in high school, and I don't want to experience past problems again. And I think that's what really contributed to having chronic depression. I think chronic depression has been misdiagnosed as like pent-up aggression about frustration just about my life and how it is kind of currently, where I'm not doing what I want to do, but feeling really powerless to change it. And that actually leads into, I can make another episode about this, whole video about this as well, because I have that much feelings about it. But to quote a Downton Abbey character named Gwen, from like season 1 or 2 of Downton Abbey. It's a really great show. Sorry, little plug. She states that her or us, as in the servants in that universe, in that time period, they aren't brought up to think that their dreams are about to come true because they almost never do. And this is very actually true, paralleling with autistic individuals and just the whole worldwide body of autistic people, like group of autistic people for the most part. And then she says, well, at first I'm sorry, I got it kind of switched, but then she had said to Lady Sybil, that you're all raised to believe that, your dreams can come true and stuff. Pardon me. Oh my gosh. Excuse me. But that's so true with real life. With special ed kids versus gen ed kids or general ed kids. General education, like elementary, middle, high school, college age students. Same with special ed kids. I can't speak for probably everybody who is in special ed, because I'm sure there's some that have really maybe have done what they want to do, but most people, including myself, I've never really thought that, I used to cry. I'll put it this way. I used to cry when I used to think about my future prior to, 3 years ago and earlier, say 2016 and earlier. Because I just didn't really see a way that my life could be any different than it is or was at the time. And then, in May 24th, 2017, all of a sudden God, not really all of a sudden, I don't know. God called me to do ministry in the future. He told me to go to England, or to, he said, I want you to go to England. And then he had said, and, one smaller kind of voice, Ireland and then Japan. Which are 3 of my favorite countries, for real. I've been to one of them. I've been to Japan. It's beautiful. Anyways, so kind of ever since then, I've had a better trajectory, better headspace, about uh, this confidence in my uh, future and just my prospects and stuff. And my mom even suggested, like, hey, why don't you just take a art class this summer at Edmonds Community College, which is one of the local community colleges kind of near where I live. And I'm just like, heck yes. Heck freaking yes. So yeah, now I don't cry about my future, but I, generally speaking, have never really felt like a lot of things that I do would really make that much of a difference, but I wanted to do something for females on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, because when I was first diagnosed, I could Google autism, and Google would have this formulated, like, from the Mayo Clinic, like a bar graph for men and women who were autistic, and the male graph would be, like, say, this long, or, like this long, and the woman's would be, like, this long, from finger to finger. That long. Or I should say that short. And I'm just like, holy freaking crap. Like, how is that even possible? So I'm thinking, wow, I must have, like, a really rare version of Asperger's syndrome or something. Sorry, pardon me. Of Asperger's syndrome or something. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, I was not brought up by both my history of being bullied for 10 years, as well as having depression during the last year I was bullied, like 2010, or 2009 to 2010, just that year. All that to say, I never have, in the past, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Have really been raised to really believe, just based on what I've experienced and what my life's been like, that in the past I never used to think that my life would be anything more than it was. Yeah, I used to pray for genuine, real friends at the lunch table. I think ever since late elementary school to, I know for a fact, at least middle school, up through high school, and I didn't really get real, genuine friends. God finally answered that prayer, and it finally happened, probably between 2010 and late 2010 to maybe to now, because I've garnered lots of friends, different friends and acquaintances between that time period. So yeah. That's something I've struggled with, though, through my life and adult life, so. Oh crap, my dad's calling me. I'll call you later, Dad. Okay. Oh my gosh. how does it having a hard time describing how I struggle with it in my adulthood. Well, I do have a hard time, like I mentioned before in my testimony about autism, and well, I know that, okay, I can say this. So people who grew up with me, like my family, probably thought something was off with me too, but didn't know as well until I was 18. Almost same as myself. So I was in a way raised since I was 18 to kind of hate autism because I didn't really know for 18 plus years that 18 years officially that I was autistic, really 17 years, but and that's caused some wrestling within myself. The fact that my parents probably are kind of iffy about believing me about autism traits and whatnot because of that fact that I wasn't born with it. Or I was born with it, but I wasn't born knowing that, you know, I was autistic. And honestly, if you believe that you're autistic and you're younger than age 18, please go to WebMD, look up Asperger's syndrome or autism, and read it for yourself. And please try to get yourself tested and diagnosed if you do have it. Younger than that, because I swear there's this whole kind of like, I can't describe it, but because I wasn't born with that knowledge. My parents never diagnosed me or anything, never tested me any time younger than 8, until I was 17. It has caused, I think, my parents to not, especially my dad, especially my mom, to not fully understand me. And there's people I've met who knew me before my diagnosis and testing, but most of my friends I currently have know me from after, like post-diagnosis, post-testing. So yeah, they don't understand the struggle. I mean, a few autism siblings I know the struggle because they had siblings with autism and stuff growing up. They have siblings with autism growing up. Just have autism siblings, period. But family members and everything. But I mean, like the people who never grew up with autism in their life at all, or very little or something, and having their own perceptions about it. Those are the kinds of people that I made this series for. And like I said, this is taking like an hour and such minutes because I said it in the announcement on Instagram and stuff, and on Twitter, that I'm not very good at freaking describing autism because I learned it from some account on Twitter, autism account. There's some word for not being able to describe one's feelings, and that is definitely what I deal with. For real, for real. Where I struggle with autism is probably just like social cues, social boundary issues. Oh my gosh. Understanding sarcasm and riddles. I hate sarcasm and riddles with a freaking passion. I loathe them both with a passion. I once had a youth leader, a youth pastor actually, who was super sarcastic to everyone, including myself, and I thought he was just doing it to be a jerk. I learned that apparently people like it when people are intentionally rude but in a joking way, and that's pretty much what sarcasm is, but to me sarcasm and riddles feels like lies. For real. It's my entire adult life, entire life that I can remember at least as well. I just never liked sarcasm very much. It never clicked with me. I love puns. They may be freaking corny, but I love puns just so much. Yeah. Yes. Just so freaking much. To close this out, or not closing it out, I feel like I'm gonna remember stuff when I'm not broadcasting it or recording it. I want to say, how also where I struggle with adult autism is like because I have had very little social skills training and not in any way professionally for autistic people. It was just a high school class that I took for 2 years in high school. It helped me a lot with understanding how people talk or how people relate to other people, but it didn't really help me with like social boundary issues, and my mom actually in our conversation recently, a day or two ago in the evening, that like she thought that the Go program had taught me how to do that, but in reality the Go program, gaining ownership of adult life, that program was pretty much like an overgrown kindergarten classroom, only everyone had a different disability. And it was very, if you've been in a kindergarten classroom and how hectic and chaotic it is, that's the best analogy I have for you. It was so stressful at certain times. There were people who told me not to do this, like this. When I do this, it's really when I'm happy or excited about something immensely. And people were telling me not to do that. Like, job coaches were telling me not to do that. When that's like, I'm not trying to just cling to this autism staple and this kind of stereotype, but it's legitimately what I did before I even knew I was autistic. Before I read anything, that's what I've done ever since I can remember. Yeah, it's just how I display my excitement. I mean, and it's the same way every time, so it's not like there's different ways that I display it. It's like one way. And my dad's probably thinking every time I do that, "Oh, that's good old Lorena." Because that is literally how I do it every single time. I'm excited. To some level or degree, that's what I do. I jump up and down. I mean, that's... The jumping up and down is, like, depending on how excited about something that I am. But, like... So pretty much... Like, this one job coach in particular in the Go program was trying... This is like back between 2012 and 2015. So sometime in the middle of this time period. This one job coach was just telling me, like, not do that, because it's not, like, I don't know, adultish, or it's not professional. And I'm like, what gives you the right to tell me how to express my emotions? For real, like, what gives you the right to dictate how I get excited? Like, for real. What? I can tell you absolutely nothing. It was not one of those times, one of those things that's really bothersome, or a kind of reaction that is very disruptive, like yelling in the middle of class, like, "Hey, it's snowing," like, really loud, you know? Yeah, that's not... I would never do that. I might have done that when I was a kid, but I don't do that now, and I haven't done that for a long time. Like, a long, long time. So, yeah. The Go program only taught me work-related things, with very minimal social skills training involved in that. Yeah, like, it taught me how to talk to people in an interview. So pretty much helping the whole autism masking thing. Like, continue. Of course, I know it was done out of care. You know, they don't want me to freak out in an interview, and they also want me to say things in the right way. But, I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, they... Oh my gosh, yeah. Was in a couple different, like, fights in the Go program, too. I mean, my mom don't know nothing about my time in the Go program. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't know a thing. Truly. Truly. Like, she knows probably that I punched a guy in the Go program once, but that was because he was being sarcastic, and I asked him 5 times to please stop. And, like, we were just walking back from our job site back to the Go program, like, portable, like, classroom at Cascade High School in, like, 2013 and 2014, and it just freaking happened. Like, I just got so frustrated. And then a girl that was with me walking back from the job site she was doing with me kind of encouraged me to punch him. I was like, this is like the last resort. This is the only thing to make him shut up. And that's how I would feel with anybody even now. If I ask you like a bunch of times to stop and you don't stop, like I'm gonna pray, but I might react like that. I'm sorry. For real. Like, I wouldn't do it on the job, of course, probably. And I don't want to get arrested for violence. Because, you know, now I can be tried as an adult, obviously, for the past 8 years. 8+ years. Well, no. Yeah, 8 years. Sorry, yeah. Let's see. When I said that I don't yell and say, "Hey, it's snowing," well, I made a new friend a few weeks ago. Her name is Hope, and she's an autism sibling of, she has an autistic brother, and he perseverates so much. If people were to see a recorded video of him doing stuff like trying to get like his sister's glove box open to, damn it, Dad, calling again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to continue this in a different thing. Dang it. Never mind. I don't have to. Sorry. Hold on. My dad's trying to call me. What? I'm sorry. Yes, I've been trying to do this autism series thing for a long time, but I didn't want to do it when you guys were home. If they have, butternut squash, I'll have, yeah, I'd have a medium size of that. Huh? What did turn out so well? You're coming in and out. Yes. Okay. Yeah, but you said that like hours ago, Dad. In a text. Actually, I think I might make some lemon here. Well, I will have a turkey into a sandwich from such a market, though. Okay. That is so embarrassing, and embarrassing that you saw that. Just the stuff behind the chair. Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't perseverate as much as Josh, Hope's autistic brother. Here's kind of a fun fact about autistic people. At least with autistic people of the opposite sex, like me and Josh, I didn't really mesh with him very well because he just focused on himself, and he focused on himself and his own interests much more than I believe I do currently with my own stuff. I'm absolutely terrible. I'm going to finish this out actually with discussing my autism traits briefly because I want to get this over with because it's been a while. Let's see. Just under an hour at least on Periscope's estimation. My autism traits are paying attention to detail, slash being observant. Obviously, because autism is a social, like, disorder, I put selectively in parentheses next to it. Pardon me. And next to that little bit of it, next to that trait, perseverating. I would say I wrote the word insane, but I kind of meant like really intense obsession over doing something. It is not the same as obsessive compulsive disorder. It's very similar, but it's different. Oh my gosh. For example, my friend's autistic brother Josh, he wanted to put his Nintendo DS thing so badly in his sister's glove compartment in her car so badly that he broke, like, the knob to, like, open it. So, essentially breaking the glove compartment door thing just so that he could stuff it in there. Like, he could stuff it in other places, like Hope's purse, or there's a little like door-less compartment that he could have slid it into, and instead of breaking a part of her property, her car. So focusing so much on something that you don't actually pay attention to whatever is happening around you. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah. And that means, for me, that could mean like playing video games, for longer than you intended. And then because women are more socially aware, and natural social butterflies, so to speak, like, you can, like, I was obviously aware of the fact that I spent an hour or two longer playing video games than I originally intended, because I wanted to get it done in X amount of time, or finish in X amount of time, but I didn't, because that's just perseverating. Another thing that was verbalized to me not too long ago, actually probably when I hung out with my new friend Dylan and my new friend Hope and Hope's brother Josh. Echolalia, I think I spelled it right. The word echo and Lalia. I think that's how you spell it. Echolalia. That's kind of like using phrases from movies or books or TV shows or even video games that just help to explain things better to other people, express the feeling that you want to relay to others, but via some phrase from a movie or TV show in particular, most especially. I do that mostly with Star Wars, but I also do it with other things that people have no idea what I'm talking about, because my special interests are not restricted to just Star Wars and art. It's like, I love Disney films, I love outer space, I love mermaids, and just like the lore about mermaids. Some of the lore about mermaids. More like Little Mermaid type mermaid stuff. Oh my gosh. Especially Disney's Atlantis film, which isn't actually talked about anymore, which is really stupid, because if that film was made into a live action film, it would literally be a bestseller. It would literally, like, be fantastic, because for the amount of CGI, computer graphics that would be needed, computer generated stuff that would needed for that film to be made into a live action film, that would be like freaking fantastic. And there'd be so many good locations for Atlantis, the Disney's Atlantis, you know, just in the world today. There'd be so many good locations. It could totally be done. Sorry, I needed yeah, sorry. Anyways, yeah. Another so I wanted to add some things that were kind of pros but also cons. So a con kind of trait that I have is, well, it's not really a trait, it's a thing I have an issue with. Social boundaries, which is what I mentioned earlier in this episode. Kind of, I swear, I just thought that, say my friend Elise with an earlier situation that I had, kind of like with pressing on a certain issue that she said no to. I didn't know that it wasn't really a thing to not keep pressing into it, even if I needed to mention a certain situation to be able to even like apologize or just share my feelings about it. I don't know. That's still kind of a confusing thing for me with that friend, because I don't think I need a counselor to be able to describe that to her. But anyways, just situations like that, where with other friends too, where I've apparently pushed topics so much that I would actually end friendships. Totally not my fault, but kind of my fault. Because I have autism, that's pretty much the only thing causing it to be my fault. Because when people are autistic and they cause certain social things to happen, it's like person with Parkinson's, like, knocking something over and them saying sorry, but they can't control it. Do you know what I mean? Or some sort of other issue that causes tics or shakes, like maybe Tourette's syndrome. Like, people with Tourette's shouldn't apologize for being how they are, because it's just how they are. I mean, it's the same thing with autism. It's not even like something we choose to be, to identify as. It's like our life. I think Jesus is my life too, but so is autism. Like, sorry, but it is. Another thing is hyper-focusing on a topic. That is different than perseverating, in my personal opinion. And this is talking about my specific traits, like, for me, myself, and I. I'm not trying to speak for a bunch of other people, but it's also something that I've noticed that other people have an issue with. For an example, I kept on talking about, I think like getting a counselor or something with my parents a couple months ago at Azteca, and my mom eventually told me, like cut me off, like, so just focus on eating your food, stop talking, don't talk about it for an hour. There was just something, I don't remember what it was, but it was something that's like, I really want to talk about it. I just feel really strongly about it. Yeah, I just forget what it was. It was a little while back, but for real though, yeah. So those are all topics, all the traits and issues that I can think of. I suppose maybe another thing would be not understanding the difference 24/7 between thoughts and feelings. Sometimes I get those kind of crossed, mixed up, like miswired or something. That's actually landed me in a hole too. Yeah, long story short, it happened with my current church, and I told someone on the staff that I was thinking not so appropriate thoughts, but what I was actually trying to convey was I was trying to say that they were intrusive thoughts. They were not thoughts that I purposefully willed myself or allowed myself to think. Therefore, I do not need a counselor just for this supposed reason. I do not. I need a counselor for autism really badly. And maybe that's what the lead person of MC4's childcare ministry meant when she told me through another person that I needed counseling. Maybe. But to me, that just made her seem like she thought I was crazy. Or am crazy. Like, that I need help. Like, because I'm having weird thoughts. When honestly, I haven't had intrusive thoughts of that nature literally for, like, I would say at least a year. And whenever I have had maybe any kind of intrusive thoughts, it's not of the same nature, of the same kind, about the same thing. Yeah, I don't, yeah. Just, yeah, you know? Yeah, so I think the whole punishment of that the head person of MC4 childcare ministry did, which is like pretty much to kick me out of childcare helping, was really far-fetched and not even worth what I was actually experiencing. What I was experiencing is a lack of capacity to fully explain myself. And there's actually, like, a name for it. It's an actual thing. So, yeah, obviously that head person of MC4 childcare ministry did not know about that. And to be honest, I didn't know about that when I was trying to explain that to said person of staff who had to tell that person in head of childcare ministry that. Yeah. Because it was that being kicked out of kids' church that kind of started me on this path of like, well, what do I do with my life if I'm not employed and I'm not doing anything? Yeah, sorry. Kind of getting a little bit off track. I did just remember something, though. I had a psychological evaluation actually, the day before, on May 23rd of last year, and it was, I think, the day before the day that I was called to ministry the year prior. I believe it was May 23rd. Could have been May 24th, the same day. But, oh my gosh. No, you know what? Yeah, it was May 23rd. Sorry. And that's through that psychological eval is when I was re-diagnosed with just autism. So, medically and clinically, I am autistic. But personally, because autism is so different for so many different people, I still consider myself an Aspie because it's just so different than autism. My idea of what autism is, which is much more low functioning at times, at least. Yeah. Yeah, and that was through the same results meeting from that testing that, yeah, I got that re-diagnosis, new diagnosis, new clinical diagnosis, actually, but also the PDD diagnosis. But I think that was from just frustration that God wasn't. Oh my gosh. I just wanted my life to change. And it wasn't changing maybe how I liked. Maybe just frustrated with life, but I think what I didn't realize those times I'd have PDD, which wasn't just depression, like how we would normally think of it, like incredible sadness and feelings of hopelessness and stuff. It isn't just that. PDD isn't just that. It's like times being frustrated with oneself or life situations, feeling regretful, or feeling weird moments of remorse. It could be periods too, like periods of time, like a couple days, or sorry, a few minutes. Honestly, actually, seconds to a few minutes to a couple hours to a couple days. These PDD episodes, for me at least, can range between those. Like, yeah. But I realized that was kind of a symptom of autism, not really a trait. However, it could be a trait too. Say a symptom of not really being heard or being understood. And really, in the long run, that can lead to, like, lots of mental stuff, man. Lots of mental stuff. Not good stuff. Like, for me, it just happened to manifest in the way of chronic depression, unfortunately. I'm not saying that I don't want to make that better, because I do. I'm just saying that may not fully go away because I think if you're autistic, you can't really live life without being frustrated about the lack of understanding and like awareness of autism. And people think that autism awareness means like, oh, like you buy stuff. Awareness means you have to buy something or whatever. Like it's related to that, but really it's just, I googled awareness once and it's just like having knowledge of something or something like that. It's Google definition is something to that effect. And so yeah, I use the term awareness and acceptance when I talk about autism because both are needed. Both are needed. Just so much. Thank you for watching. I'm finished now. This episode particularly was on the fly because I'm home alone, but it was like really the easiest to do because if I were to mention all that stuff about my mom, and if my mom had another snow day, because we do have snow, if she were to be here, she would have heard all of that, and possibly my dad too, and I don't want to stir the pot. I really don't want to with my mom. Yeah. So yeah. Please like this video if you thought it was helpful. I apologize so much for my ramblings. I did try to stay close to my notes. I really did. I have other notes for other scopes / YouTube videos. yeah. I think my next scope will be the literal Aspie Perspective, or something like that. I don't want to keep on using the Aspie Perspective in the titles, but I mean, with this literal Aspie Perspective, see, I just shared the past hour or something, about my own Aspie Perspective. It's very personal. It's very, yeah. Literal Aspie Perspective for maybe the next scope, or sorry, the next video, is about the general picture for a majority of autistic people on the autism spectrum. It's not about just my own experience with autism, like this scope or video was and is about. Yeah, it's gonna be just what it's generally like to have autism, stuff like that. I have another idea for maybe a third video, which I might make about autism masking and mirroring, pros and cons, and how it's different from neurotypical masking versus autism masking, like the difference between that. Yeah, an autism masking video would definitely definitely be like an hour or two long, hour to 2 hour long, like, video for sure. Oh my gosh. Well, there's so much of my thoughts, but just of the facts about it too. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Please, I'm gonna be saying this a lot because I'm gonna be adding this recorded video from Periscope straight to YouTube as well, from my phone to YouTube, because Periscope has that functionality. So I'm going to be saying a lot in the future. Please, if you appreciate this video, if you liked it, if it shed some light on some things about autism that you maybe didn't know about, then please below like the video and subscribe to see more videos, quite literally, about the Aspie Perspective. Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.